Jonathan, let me ask you, out of the two of us, which one is the Sherlock and which one is the Watson?
Gosh.
I'm sorry to put you on the spot like this.
No, it's okay because now I have to put you on the spot,
Oh no.
Vernon, and say there was a time when you were a little more portly than I.
Oh yeah.
But not before you died. Before you died, you had slimmed down quite a bit.
Just in the nick of time to be stuck in my final form for all eternity. That's
Exactly.
right.
Yeah. That's
But your point is what?
Oh, well, I suppose that you could be the Watson in that regard, but I don't know, we're both pretty short ghosts.
Because of my physical appearance, I don't think we can go just by that, Jonathan. My personality, your personality.
Oh, you're right. I am thinking too physical, especially for a spirit. Let me think more ghostly.
That's so 1800s of you.
Well,
Oh, the portly one's got to be John Watson.
Stephen Moffat's just got me in that frame of mind, I guess. We'll
Mm.
get to it.
Nightmare.
I think I'm the genius, clearly.
Whoa.
So I have to be
Whoa.
the Sherlock. That's the
Wow.
that's the only answer to take, really.
You certainly have the pomposity to fit the role.
I could no, if I auditioned for Sherlock, I truly wouldn't get it just because I'm not tall enough. I'm also dead.
Yeah.
What's the show called, Vernon?
It's called Sherlock. Um,
Noir show.
oh my God. Oh my ghosts. Our podcast that we're doing right now that we've already started is called Deadpan Ghosts.
Yeah.
And my name's Vernon and your name's Jonathan. And we're both actually ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
And this is really like the beginning of a new era for us, or at least a new venture, in that we finally turned the fire on underneath the dead pan itself,
Mm-hmm.
and we are prepared to roast something worth roasting. Two ghost roast, Jonathan. You finally let me do it.
Yeah, we're
Thank you. Thanks, Jonathan.
we're gonna roast a thing, and that thing is season 3, episode 4, correct?
Gosh, I think it's season 4, episode 0.
Well, that's what it said on the ghostly internet archive. But it was a special episode.
Right.
So kind of a weird situation
It
there.
was a Christmas special, I think. It came out on the 1st of January,
Oh,
whatever
well, I
year.
guess that's kind of
Which is why we're doing it in the middle of, well, you
yeah,
know what? This is a timeless video. The roasting of Sherlock. We're not just roasting this episode, Jonathan. We're taking a bite out of
we're doing it because
the whole.
it's Pride Month and Sherlock is gay.
Oh, that's it. Right. It's not timeless. This is the least timeless.
Yeah.
We are dating it monthly for all eternity. Yeah. Happy Pride Month.
Yeah. Sherlock is gay, or at least the version of Sherlock that exists in all of our minds is gay, right?
Exactly.
That's what we want to
Exactly. Our chosen my Sherlock.
certainly. And fitting enough for this episode because this is a fantasy, this entire episode. What if we did Sherlock Holmes normal instead of doing this Sherlock in the modern times
All
bullshit?
normal like.
What if we just did normal Sherlock Holmes? He's in 1800s London, and people are selling papers on the street, and there's horse carriages going by and through the muddy
Isn't
cobblestones.
that great?
Yes.
I was excited. You know, even I heard about this at the time, but I was not I was so off of the show. You know, I think like to establish, you know, where I'm coming from or where we're both coming from is, you know, we were with the hype of Sherlock when it was first hyping and fell off when it begged us to stop
Yes.
watching it.
Shortly after season two's finale.
Right, the beginning of this has this big like scenes from last week
Right.
that gives us everything that we could ever need to know. But I had seen all of it. I had seen 3 seasons, which it was interesting to come back to it and not expect it to kind of continue the story, but it ended up totally, picking up where I'd left off, which was a twist.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I left off, somewhere around there in season three.
Right. Everybody saw the first episode of season three because you had to. You wanted to know
Yes.
what
And then
happened.
it turns out that they didn't want to tell us how it
No,
happened.
I don't think anything
And
happened. No, nothing happened.
that's a problem with this episode too, but we'll get
Hmm.
to that. I was also very excited going into it. And I do have to say, this is, honest to God, one of the better episodes of Sherlock, like in the entire show, as far as like a mystery goes. B At least the setup,
You know,
but it's still not very good
speaking as a ghost, I was, that's why we're doing it
because it's got ghosts in it.
with all those other reasons. It's
Hmm.
supposed to be a ghost story. It's called The Abominable Bride, and the image has got a ghost lady on it. And that's all you need. Every time I hear about any IP, I'm like, ghost?
Ghosts?
And if the answer is yes,
You're gonna watch
my
it. Yeah,
gosh,
but you
you can't stop me.
all right, and I understand you're disappointed, but you really should have, and I warned you of this, should have expected this going in. You know, Sherlock Holmes is a series of stories about let's do away with these superstitions, figure out what's actually going on. It's a lot like Scooby-Doo
Right.
in that regard, at least this episode.
I was really excited for the prospect of Sherlock being faced with possibly having to believe in something. And, the episode flirts with that, but it kind of has some bookending that takes place in the modern reality.
Yeah,
So it doesn't have as much time as you would really want it to
right.
for the ghost mystery.
Because this can't just be a straight special. It has to like incorporate this plot into the modern time plot somehow and
I mean, it really,
explain
it did it.
what's really happening and also what's going on at the end of this season. It's doing all these things at once, and I think it honestly does this juggling act okay. Like it dropped a dish and the dish shattered, but it kept everything else on, right?
I was worried at first. At the beginning, it was like a shot for shot, moment to moment remake of episode one, which was the only real research I'd done for this. I rewatched the pilot
Mm,
episode.
interesting.
And so the opening where, the two characters meet for the first time, all that was the same. And I was like, no, I hope it's not just the same plot.
Mm,
But it quickly, like, they skip time, and John Watson suddenly has a mustache, which I remember from the marketing, and I was really grateful that we were doing, a fresh story.
yeah, classic hair Sherlock and classic hat Sherlock, no less, and also
Right, they're
classic
doing, I mean,
mustached Kane.
both of them are doing accents,
They are.
like stronger accents. Benedict Cumberbatch starts talking, and I turned my subtitles off because I'm like, I can't understand you. I need these subtitles, but I refuse.
Yeah, you just wanted to be in it, not understanding.
Yeah, it was such a thick, but he looked great.
I was getting the gist of it, I think, but yeah, definitely a lot of lost words there. Thick accents. Really well done, actually. I do think, for all its faults, and we are going to be roasting it pretty heavily here, I think.
I think
Uh,
I can't be sure at this point.
Benedict Cumberbatch, pretty great actor. Martin Freeman, he's all right.
Oh boy, my mom hates Benedict Cumberbatch. She doesn't like to say his name, and she really doesn't like to look at his face. Uh,
Well,
she's gonna hate to see him on a thumbnail.
he's done some good work. I never want to hear him, try to do a Boston accent again. Um,
Right, he's doing a really good British accent in this.
yeah, what was that movie he did a Boston accent in?
Um, Black Mass.
Yeah, that Johnny Depp, Frankie Bulger biopic. Interesting, but not very good.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe I pulled that name out of my lexicon.
Yeah, thank you. That was incredible.
Incredible.
Gotta play trivia with you sometime.
Oh,
Uh,
that sounds fun. Like a ghost trivia. I mean, the questions aren't all about ghosts.
no, yeah, we're just two ghosts doing trivia.
playing with other ghosts, ideally.
ideally. But, we've got all the time in the world.
Oh my gosh, we do. Before we started the viewing, because we just floated out of the room in which the people we haunt watch movies, I asked you to write down your predictions because I love mysteries and I love the prospect of a whodunit.
Yes. Let me get my ghostly flap of paper.
Gosh, I put a lot of pressure on mysteries. I think the potential energy in a mystery is so potent, and gosh, my expectations for a Sherlock episode are really high. Not just a Sherlock episode, a Sherlock Holmes story. I didn't want them to show me who done it in the first scene. I didn't want to know the method. I'm not interested in just how Sherlock figures it out. I want to try to figure it out, and I want to have like most of the runtime to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so I
The
was,
problem, I
yeah, tell
guess,
me, Jonathan.
the problem is that this because the frame is Sherlock is too smart to be fooled by a superstition.
Mm-hmm.
We feel disappointed by media that's not willing to accept the existence of ghosts. We're right here,
We're right here.
everybody. We're right here. But when you asked me before it started, before we had seen the episode,
Yeah,
who do you think did it? Obviously, we had no information, just
we really
jokes.
didn't.
Uh, yeah, I said obviously Moriarty did it.
Right, and I laughed. I laughed.
Joke's on you, Vernon,
Yeah, yeah.
because it's more true than not.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was happy for you. I was thrilled for you as it was happening. I was like, wow,
It's like,
Jonathan
yep,
nailed it.
they cannot. Another big flaw of this show, Sherlock can't just solve a mystery. It always has to be entwined with Moriarty. Moriarty is always teased, even after he's dead, which is, again, the season two finale. Spoilers, big spoilers for all of Sherlock, but
And then the season 3 finale teases that
yeah,
he has returned. That's what we are just, on the recovering from.
I think that turns out to be nothing.
Well, me and I haven't seen season 4.
I have not seen season four either. What I have seen is, well, there's a very popular YouTube video,
Oh
in
no.
case you're somehow unaware,
Mhm.
and this time it really must be mentioned because it hangs over any discussion of Sherlock on the internet.
Maybe in your head.
Uh,
I don't know what you're talking about.
I've just seen it. H Bomber Guy,
Mhm.
Sherlock is garbage, and
Mhm.
here's why,
Yeah.
is the, negative critique of Sherlock that most people have seen
Okay.
on
Well,
YouTube.
bless my grits, Jonathan. I have not, and so my opinion is pure as the ghostly grave. So you shush up now about what H Bomber Guy thinks.
Well, I don't care what H Bomber Guy thinks. We're fortunate here doing this episode on this episode of Sherlock, this ghost episode, because H. Bomber Guy really doesn't have anything to say about it.
Oh
Although
yeah.
I do think that what happens at the end of this episode here turns out to be not paid off.
Yeah, all in due time, all in due time. Uh
Yeah, we're not going to talk about all
One
that,
thing
really.
about the legacy of this show is the gaydom and how exciting it was from the pilot, the energy from that first episode that propelled it into, a Tumblr icon. Uh,
Yes. Well, it does a lot of queer baiting, really.
it does. I've just seen the first episode, and it has a certain magic that none of the rest of Sherlock has,
Yeah.
where the characters are meeting each other for the first time,
Mm,
and Watson is kind of blown away by him and says like wow and amazing, and those are like there's these moments where Sherlock feels seen for the first time, like everybody else judges him and kind of resents him for his genius, but he really like he there's some twinkle in Benedict Cumberbatch these first moments with Watson. And as soon as you get to episode 2, and then as soon as you time skip in this one,
yeah.
they become a little more of an old married couple right away. You kind of lose that whole romantic getting to know you honeymoon phase. What everybody really wanted the show to be is, kind of snuffed out almost immediately. I did start episode
Yeah.
2 and it was unfinishable.
I bet as soon as episode 2 starts, it's, oh, why don't you marry him already?
Yeah, they've lost. Yeah, it's not as good. Everybody wishes the show would have gone more into that. I think they kind of switched gears into making the Sherlock and Moriarty thing, the possible alluring romance of that.
Right, but they don't, do that either.
No.
He just, as I've said, dies at the end of season 2.
Right. 10 years ago.
He actually himself.
Right. This is a good point to say that this is usually and still is a horror media podcast. And so
Uh, yeah.
there will be things we will discuss, mature and disturbing subject matter, and so there is a complete list. And this movie, not an exception. It's got some horrifying things and themes, and it'll all be
It
listed
does.
in the description. And if you haven't seen it, I strongly recommend you check it out.
I was gonna say, it's important to note here that Sherlock also jumps off a building at the end of season 2.
Mm-hmm.
This does come up because everyone wonders how he survived because he just comes back. They already show it at the end of season 2. He jumps off the building, everyone thinks he died, and then the camera like swings over and he's like watching from like a hill somehow. And he's like, haha, I did the impossible.
And so everyone spent a whole, 3 summers theorizing.
Yeah, it was gone for a long time. Yeah, on Tumblr.
I'm sure a bunch of YouTube channels got started just
Mm-hmm.
just with this,
Yeah.
just with Sherlock. How is he going? How is he back?
And so, you know what they do in the first episode of season 3? They have a group of theorizers who are making up theories about how he must have done it. And they're all losers. They're all just big
Oh,
losers. And we can just sit back and laugh at them the whole
that
time.
was us. They look just like us. Bunch of
Bunch
losers.
of losers, is all these guys are. Those are the most important part of the audience for a mystery to function. People who
Yeah.
care about how something happened. But one of the problems with Sherlock is that instead of really having something shown to the audience where they can work out a mystery, they can kind of guess at what's happening. The show always kind of tries to outsmart its audience by having
Yes.
some out of left field shit occur.
Which is unsatisfying.
It doesn't make for good mystery writing. Which leads me to the big question. How does this episode of Sherlock concern ghosts, Vernon?
Oh boy. Oh boy. Well, 1800s British land. Constable Inspector Lestrade comes in all sweaty with mutton chops, and Sherlock is like, I know all the details. You are scared. And so they hear the ghost story. And the ghost story made me imagine this is a book. This is actually not based on a real story.
Right.
There's a series of Sherlock stories called the Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes, and in one of them they reference the case of the Abominable Bride, but it's not ever
Mm.
really fleshed out. I'm not sure. Like this episode implies that it's based on an actual 1800s mystery. I don't know if that's true. Uh,
Well, they did a pretty good job setting this up.
well, I really don't know. I kind of would have liked it to not show me in like a vision as it was describing the
For
mystery. I think because
sure.
it's supposed to be a horror, I really would have loved just to imagine the ghost when they were showing me
But you have
the.
to show things to the audience so that they
Yes,
can
I
they
guess.
can make assumptions about how something occurred and then maybe be right.
Well, the ghost was really made for TV. The ghost did not impress me when I first saw it. I
Right.
didn't like it.
Well, It isn't a real ghost.
Roast, roast, roast,
That's
roast,
that's the next
roast.
question I was supposed to ask you, which was, are the ghosts real?
The,
Obviously not.
the ghosts are a metaphor.
No, no.
You know,
But
the ghosts are as real as they are in Ghost Protocol Mission
no.
Impossible.
Okay, so a woman, Amelia.
I did not write down that in my ghost notes. I wrote down the word zombie with a squiggly mark under it because it was a lot more zombie.
Ricoletti?
Ah, it was Rigoletti. That's
I think it's
right.
Ricoletti, Amelia
Nice
Ricoletti.
job.
And and because of that, they mention a letter filled with orange pits at one point,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, is it the mob?
Is it
Is
the
it the Godfather? You know how important oranges
okay,
are in The
Mafia? It's
Godfather.
kind of a mob. You were kind of right.
So that's yeah, that's something that I wrote down at one
Very
point,
good.
wondering who done it.
It was kind
But
of the mob.
but it was also kind of Amelia. Right from the start, it's obvious that Amelia did at least one
Yeah,
murder.
maybe it was Amelia working by herself the whole time at the beginning.
Well, that was what I was wondering. Clearly, it turned out not to be the
Yeah, here's
case.
the one. Where are we doing spoilers? You know, the big thing about a mystery.
I've already said spoilers for the entire show, but I
Oh,
guess we'll go ahead and spoil.
right. Did you get it, Jonathan? Did you see the clues that said we were doing a suffragette women's mafia where all the women in London are the ghost and they're killing the men? Did you see it coming?
Sherlock was on their side. This is one of those where Sherlock. No, I did not see this part coming.
The clues were there.
Even though they were kind of there. There was an innocuous thing. I thought it was theming. I thought, oh, they're doing a good
Yeah,
job at showing that
yeah.
women didn't have it very good in the 1800s. For
There
an
it
episode of
was.
Sherlock, remarkably, it's putting some thought into, because it's the past, and everyone's like, oh, you can criticize the past, but not the present.
The character from the original first season who's like, I don't know if she's a coroner or she works at the police station, but she's in one of the very first scenes and she has a role in the 1800s version where she is dressed as a man and working in the
Mm.
police, investigate, and that's a big, I mean, that she shows up in the big women's cabal at the end.
Yeah,
Uh
I thought that Martin Freeman just broke character and was being transphobic for a second there. Because, she's like a
I
man with a
know.
mustache in this
And he's
position.
like making a point, like, I see through this. By the way, you're not fooling me.
Oh, I think at the time, Stephen Moffat probably didn't even know. He knew that queer
Gosh.
people on Tumblr were being cringe by wanting to know how a mystery is solved.
Yeah, so cringe.
But I don't know if he knows at this point in time about trans
Yeah,
people.
I'm not sure how self-aware
Yeah,
that is
I don't
exactly.
know.
Watson also has another scene that sets up the women cabal with his maid, his housekeeper, and he's like super upper class British person, rude. And I mean, it was a funny scene, but it was like, when you said I didn't know Martin Freeman broke character, uh, yeah, it was definitely, oh, I don't know.
He's okay.
My opinion of Martin Freeman has waned since I was younger. When I was a kid, I thought he was great, but since then, I've just, there's a pomposity that these
Hmm.
characters, even the Sherlock Holmes brand, it's a little like James Bond. There's a little bit of distastefulness in how the characters treat other people.
Well,
I don't really like him as Doctor Strange. I'm a huge Doctor Strange fan. Um, but
right.
he's not my Doctor Strange.
Mm.
But gosh golly, no reason for that.
Yeah, I think he's good. I really like him in the ending of the Imitation Game. Most of the Imitation Game is kind of boring, but
Boring. I wrote the word boring
hmm
in my notes for this. Did you?
no, I was pretty. I think Sherlock is a show that, like,
Mm.
it's pretty good at just like flashing lights and jingling keys at you for a while.
There was a lot of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was super consistent.
Yeah.
Didn't it remind you heavily of Sherlock? I mean, yeah, everybody's performance was really consistent. It felt like we'd all been away for summer camp and we came back and nobody really skipped a beat. I was
For
impressed
sure.
by the immersion of like timeline where I don't know when they shot it in comparison to the last section, but it really just, especially when we switched back to modern day Sherlock with his curlier, longer hair, I was like, wow,
Yeah, instantly disappointed.
so consistent though.
For sure.
Like
Yeah.
this, he has his Sherlock in the bag. They all know who they're supposed to be.
But I think that you really get a display of his Shakespearean kind of
Hmm.
acting talent in this one. Not that the English is that old, but
I had read that the character in Sherlock had never said things like "elementary, my dear Watson" or
mm-hmm,
"the game is afoot." He said a variation. He said "the game is on," but
mm-hmm.
he says both, and the same with the hat, and the
Yeah.
pipe.
You're Sherlock Holmes, you wear the hat.
That they did. There was a lot of meta
Yeah,
commentary.
like why?
The first scene with Miss Hudson, she's like, I read your new, art, your new story about Sherlock, John
Yeah,
Watson, because
John,
he
yeah,
writes
John
the
has is
stories.
actually writing the stories. Like that is from the text, I think they're all
Yeah,
narrated
yeah,
by him, are kind of because,
yeah.
he is the point of view that we see Sherlock through. That's so important.
And he says to Hudson, "Did you like it?" And she's like, "No." And she gives some reason, like she's like, "I wish I was more involved," but I laughed out loud. There was some funny, you
That's a
know,
clue.
uh,
That's a clue to the suffragette cabal.
I know. Miss Hudson is not in the cabal though.
She's not, but also
I really thought she was gonna.
Watson's maid. Yeah, I thought she was gonna be in that too. She's just clueless. She has no idea what's going on, I guess. But not Watson's maid. She knows what's going on,
For
right?
sure, it's implied that like she's one of the main ghostly dresser uppers.
Yeah, and that makes sense
Yeah,
because
no
what they're
ghosts.
doing is they're murdering ruffians, guys who really deserve it, like had an affair,
You'd have to
uh,
imagine.
left her with the baby and whatnot. Oh, this guy abused a woman,
You're making all
something
this
like
up, right?
that.
You're just assuming. That's what
No,
it.
I mean this is like given reason for some of what happened. And Sherlock too is on their side because he's like, oh, they're going after the real rogues. I don't know what they say. but but the gist is that like they're going after men who have abused
Yeah.
women because there's no other recourse for justice. At first, it's just Amelia,
Yes.
and it turns out that she kills
Hmm.
herself for the cause. Like, there's a whole thing about her corpse being
This
identified.
was whack.
There was another person who looked a lot like her.
Yeah, halfway through they have a corpse identifying scene to confirm that Amelia is not walking around killing people, and it's like, see, she's here because
Mm-hmm.
she did kill herself. She did end up killing herself after faking killing herself in the opening scene.
Right.
Yeah, it was a stretch. It was a stretch. It was falling apart at the end, but and they played that into the meta narrative where, see, here's the episode is Sherlock. And this was brilliant. Okay, two ghost roast, right?
Mm-hmm.
uh, Sherlock is trying to figure out how Moriarty could be coming back to life. It's impossible. I saw him shoot himself and kill
Just
himself.
like
It's
Amelia.
it's impossible. And so Sherlock is going into his mind palace, which is I learned that term from Sherlock. I don't know if that show invented that. I'm sure it's a technique in thinking, but
Mm-hmm.
he's put himself in the 1800s trying to figure out a case that actually existed. That's the story. I don't know, again, if it's a real case.
Yeah, and it reminds him of how Moriarty killed himself.
And so as the story progresses, it is held less and less responsibility to be like held together in reality. He's going through drug experiences, and the rules start to kind of, none of it matters so
Hmm.
much. He's just trying to figure out the Moriarty
Yeah,
thing.
but he's also he's trying to figure out that at the same time as he's putting himself in the past, and Watson also trying to figure out how he would have solved this case.
Figure
And
out.
he's also like taken a lot of drugs as they find out.
Yes.
All of the people who meet him as the plane he's on has landed. There's like this whole sequence where, Moriarty has come out and he's taunting Sherlock and he's like, it's all in your head. And
This is another extremely consistent scene that I was impressed by, actually. That when Moriarty shows up, it's like, he's only had two scenes in the series ever, and he was so the
he's
same.
had more than that.
He was sticking out his tongue.
Man, he was doing a
It was a
lot. I think he's doing a little bit too much, but that's what they want him to do. So it's not on him.
Yeah, Sherlock says, the only ghosts that are real are the ones we make in our mind. And that because his mind is so
Yeah.
powerful, this is how ghosts work. This is ghost rules, according to Sherlock, is that his mind is keeping him alive.
Hmm.
He knows Moriarty's methods, or the way he would think enough. He feels, I don't know how
Yeah.
that could be
I
true.
also wrote
But
something down here. Another thing
mm,
that Sherlock says is ghosts are the shadows that define our every sunny day.
oh my gosh. Stephen Moffat.
That kind of rings right there. That's a good writing moment.
It was a good opportunity to do ghost metaphors. Most of the ghost media we cover is very literal.
Yes.
Uh, but so this did take advantage of a lot of these
But
themes.
there are also people, women, pretending to be a ghost to kill some bad men with a gun.
There was some cool like glass projection technology that was based on
Yeah,
reality to create a ghostly effect. I would have liked that the whole time.
for sure. Yeah, I liked that bit though. It's a classic trick, theatrical trick, but then they break it, and that's the sound of breaking glass that Sherlock and Watson hear, right? Outside
Right.
of this
Yeah,
this
that
mansion.
was one of those clue reveals where I'm like, yeah, all right, whatever. Yeah, I missed that.
That one was pretty good. They think it's a window breaking.
That was good.
Yeah.
I should have thought of that. Sherlock says that he has to go deeper. He says it throughout the episode. Deeper still, he says.
Deeper still. He's so on drugs.
Can we talk about the fat suit?
Oh yeah. So much like in the show, Sherlock and Watson will talk to Mycraft from time to time because we've got to
Not
give
Minecraft.
Mark Gattis a role somewhere. Did I
I
say
don't think it's
Minecraft?
Minecraft.
Mycroft. Mycroft. No, yeah. It for some reason in this episode, I don't know if this is book accurate, but Mycroft is really fat and he's in a ridiculous fat
Yes.
suit. And they pay a lot of attention to it and make a lot of jokes
He's
about it.
eating a lot.
Um, Not so bad. I kind of like that,
Not
like,
so bad.
he and Sherlock have this, back and forth, like, betting when he's gonna die.
Yeah. That's just how like we were before we died.
Exactly. But secretly, Mycroft really cares for Sherlock, but Sherlock thinks that Mycroft is always trying to be cleverer than Sherlock. But I think Mycroft thinks that the only way that he can get through to his brother is to be like that.
So you liked it despite the fat suit.
No, I didn't like it.
Well, I hated it. He was eating the whole
I
time.
I
I
don't
hate
like the
eating.
way that they focused on it. I know you hate eating sounds. I was like, this
I
one's a big nope for Vernon.
I turned the light on and just looked away.
He's
I stopped even watching.
he's eating like
I was
plum
like,
pudding.
what a nightmare.
I will say there is something about he's like rich and he's one of the only people in the time who can afford this much food. So it's like
Hmm.
to Sherlock and especially Watson, it comes off as pretty crass.
Yes,
I
yes.
suppose there's something there, you know, the whole quote unquote fat cats thing, Marxism.
Okay. Okay. Oh, yeah. Casual Marxism.
But
Marxism.
a lot of attention is paid to his, you know, fatness and like grotesque. It's like grotesque SpongeBob close-ups, you know, like we were talking about
It's
before.
just it was a little like that.
One thing I do like is that Watson is like, "Oh, you've got to stop eating like that," and he's like, "Oh, I know, I'm going to die," and he just is stuffing more food into his face, like he doesn't care.
Yeah. That was a little relatable, but horrifying.
I'm like, that's a little bit. He doesn't care. Leave him alone, Watson.
This episode was definitely they were definitely playing the hits. They did kind of all the Sherlock things, the drug taking, the Moriarty,
They literally
Mycroft,
do the
you
Reichenbach
know.
fall sequence in a dream sequence.
Right, right. That's that was bad.
Oh, it looked bad.
It was a mind palace resolution thing, but they went they jumped the shark and then jumped it again and then talked about jumping the shark all in the same moment where Watson shows up and he's like, "There's always two of us," and
Hmm
Watson kicks Moriarty off. It was
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
They
guess that
both.
was kind of like pro Sherlock and Watson ship. Like in Sherlock's mind palace, he dumps Moriarty for Watson in that moment.
Right. Well, there's also just like this episode makes a point of showing that Mycroft really does
Mhm.
care about both in Sherlock's mind and in real life. He stops Watson and is like, "Take care of him."
Yes, Mycroft does good. Mark Gattis, I always think he's good, but I hate him.
He's pretty good. Yeah.
Watson's wife, Mary, is in
hmm
this episode,
She shows
and
up.
she's working with
hmm
Minecraft, and as she does, I guess, in the normal plot.
Chicken Jackie. Sorry.
Treasure.
Oh,
I have not seen Minecraft. Is there
yeah.
ghosts in Minecraft? We'll
No,
talk
no,
about
I
it,
have not.
please. Please.
I think there's skeletons,
Oh, that's not.
zombies.
Uh, I don't.
Yeah.
Not good. Not good
There's
enough.
chicken jockeys.
That that is a zombie.
We're not zombies.
I'm not a zombie. I'm a ghost.
Where's the truth?
The truth is you're listening to the truth right now.
Yeah, we're ghosts. That's the truth.
Mind Palace.
Unlike unlike this fake mystery that's not even real. It's all in
It
Sherlock's
wasn't a
head.
mystery, and
And he comes
it's
up with a crazy answer.
yeah, and Moriarty's mind palace is like he's like this is all nonsense. The female cabal.
Yeah, he's probably right. I like that
Gosh,
he comes in and he's like, this is all a bunch of bullshit.
yeah.
But, you know, that doesn't make it that much better for me, the person who was excited about the mystery, being like, this is all a bunch of bullshit.
I did write down the term copycat wives and I underlined the S in wives revenge, and I wrote that at about an hour into the thing. There was only
There
about
were
like
copycats.
5 minutes until the reveal, so I wasn't too early on the trying kind of figuring out what was happening.
So the three things I wrote down were Moriarty did it, Amelia, she did it, but how? And then I wrote down the mob. So I was right on all three
Yeah, you were pretty
counts.
right. My pre-guess was that the husband did it, which is a reference to the classic "the husband did it" guess, and I
hmm
was as pretty much as wrong as you could be.
Yeah, that's pretty funny though. It turns out that the wife did it. Yeah. For good reason, of course.
Gosh, so
I
not
also wrote down I also wrote down M is Mycroft, I bet, because you see Mary Watson
Yeah.
pick up a
Yeah.
letter and it has an M on it, and you're like, oh, it could be Moriarty, but no, of
Yeah.
course, it's Mycroft. She's
Of
working with
course.
Mycroft because he
Classic.
wants her to keep an eye on Sherlock, naturally. There's this whole bit they do about how it's never twins.
Oh, I was so sure it was gonna be twins.
But no, it's just a girl that looked a lot like her.
Yeah. Oh, they kind
Happens
of do.
sometimes.
They kind of do it. But yeah, there was a lot of that meta stuff of playing with the tropes. They
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. It's got that same pride. It's kind of gotta outsmart the source material, gotta outsmart the audience.
it's all worth a roast, but this episode wasn't as bad as I wanted it to be.
There's one thing I wrote down.
I'm excited.
Redbeard? Question mark?
Redbeard's Ghost. Is there a Redbeard Ghost movie? Oh, that sounds pretty good. Redbeard.
I don't. Somebody says
Red.
Redbeard.
Yeah, that's
I don't
ringing a
remember
bell.
what that pertains to, but what a great note. Redbeard?
Here's the part I really enjoyed where we first go to Mycroft's office. They switch, or they do this big kind of, they have the title of like the office or whatever, and then the letters switch around in this kind of weird, After Effects kind of way, and the letters form absolute silence. And so they're Sherlock has and Watson have this whole sign language scene with the guy who works at Mycroft's office, and I love sound sensitivity. I'm a sound sensitive person before I was a ghost, and now as a ghost, I'm even more sound sensitive, and I'm always attuned
For sure.
to sound sensitive creators, and so I felt a kinship with the vibe, but the immediate next scene was like 5 minutes of constant Mycroft eating. So I think it was the
Mm-hmm.
equivalent of like a jump scare or kind of like a lull in the music before they punched me in the face. So I think it was anti sound sensitivity. I think it was offensive and I hated it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was also offensive to fat people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which,
I'm gonna have to put fatphobia, literally, in the content warnings.
they do it really they really do it. You mentioned I used to be a more portly John Watson shaped
Yeah.
character. And yeah, I don't love fat suits. I had to
No, they
even
always
as a
look
portly
pretty.
person as an actor, I had to wear additional fat suits before.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
so there's weird it is when I saw it, I think I had read it about it before watching the episode because it's like a fun fact, like this is how Mycroft usually appears. But
This is what they did to him for this special.
it was a little bit like you know British fat suits. It was a little too old school offensive
Yeah.
humor.
Yeah.
Little Monty
It
Python, the guy who explodes because he's too fat. They knew they were being problematic. This was in 2016, and they were like, we're doing a
let's do
fat
it.
suit. We're
Yeah.
it's let's do it. Whatever.
Great. Everyone will laugh for 6 minutes while Vernon covers their ghostly ears.
I really did.
Oh, it doesn't work. My ghostly hands are going through my ghostly ears.
Oh, are you gonna watch season 4? Or are you gonna keep watching?
No. I've heard it's bad. Do you know what happens at the end?
I mean, I don't know if the people who are watching it and could possibly be listening to us at this point in the video, if they want us to go into it.
I already warned for spoilers for the entire show. I think we're safe.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've made it 10 years now without knowing. It's on the tip of your Moriarty's tongue. You're sticking your tongue out and you're like, I want to tell you there's a twist and then there's another twist and they're both unsatisfying and I'll be like, "Well, I guess I know now." So, I think we shouldn't.
Okay, well, what happens is
What? What?
so what happens is
Run away. I'm a ghost.
we don't have legs, we can only float.
I guess I'm done with Sherlock. Even if it was I guess I'm done. All right,
Okay.
Jonathan.
So Moriarty is dead, but before he died,
They land on that at the end of this episode. They're like, he is dead. We're not going
I
backsies.
know exactly what he's going to do next, Sherlock says.
Yes.
It is a funny kind of pithy, yes, he is dead. I know
Yes.
exactly what he's going to do next. But I don't think he really does. Because what
Because the
Moriarty,
writers don't know.
quote unquote, they don't. What he, quote unquote, does next
Here
is
we
that he
go.
discovers Sherlock's secret sister, who has been locked up in a mental asylum.
Enola Holmes?
But I don't know if it's Enola, that Netflix movie. But it's his secret sister, and
Okay, crazy.
I think she's an older sister is the thing. And
Okay. Enolder. Enolder.
yeah, he forgot her.
Oh, memory
She's in a
loss.
she's in a mental institution behind like a glass wall, and Moriarty comes and talks to her, and I guess gets her to do his plans after he's dead. And
Okay.
she's crazy. She killed Sherlock's friend that he had as a boy, who he remembers as a dog. Um, because of trauma,
Okay.
he doesn't remember his sister, and he remembers his friend as a dog. She killed him.
The summary is terrible.
She locked away. She meets Moriarty. Sherlock flashback remembers all this. The dog gets replaced by a boy. And then, like at the end, he just needs to like hug his sister, and I guess they like work it out.
This is what you had to get off your chest.
Yeah. Doesn't that
Doesn't
I've
that,
only seen this in montage form, but
well,
imagine having to sit through a whole episode of that.
three episodes, right? It's not just
Well,
one.
I don't know. I don't know if they cram it into one or if they do it all season. I don't know.
Well, listen, that sounds great. I'm glad you like that. It's just not for me.
No. No. I needed to let how bad it gets, obviously.
I've literally forgotten what you just said. I pushed it out so fast. My mind palace is shut.
Uh, you need to go deeper.
Deeper still.
Just tie your arm up, get that needle in there.
Jonathan.
What? It'll go right through. We can't be punctured by
Yeah, I know I'm a
needles. Couldn't
ghost.
take opium if I wanted to.
I'm a ghost.
Who has opium anyway these days?
Gosh. Gosh.
Not even modern Sherlock Holmes takes opium. Sad.
I didn't do any dates research. I know it came out January 1st. I'm sure other things have come out that day. I just didn't care.
Well, this episode's a little bit laid back. We're roasting it, and the ghosts are fake, and there's things I could ask. How are the ghosts portrayed? Scary. They're not real, but the people who are pretending to be ghosts are like, ghosts are scary, and we're gonna be some scary, vengeful ghosts. Vengeful ghosts.
I needed another character who believed in ghosts,
I
who
think like
really, had the fear in them.
most people believed in ghosts besides
Really?
Sherlock. And
But somebody that could get through to Sherlock, like Watson needed
yeah,
to
like
be.
even Watson's a little bit
I guess
superstitious
he
in
is.
his
He
scared
gets scared.
moments. He gets
But he's
scared
still a
and
man of science and a doctor, so he's not really believing in ghosts.
yeah, but he gets scared and he thinks for a split second, I saw the ghost.
It's a little like the Hounds of Baskerville, where, they're not real.
And I'm glad you brought it up because that episode of Sherlock is terrible.
Yeah, big old flop. Classic story,
Ruined.
bad episode.
What is something about Sherlock gets Watson to take drugs and hallucinate?
Yeah, a really long scene of Watson hiding in a box,
And then like the
scared of a hallucination wolf.
didn't the dog come from like a dude's t-shirt?
Um, I feel like one of those details, I've pushed right out, but it was
Like a kid,
thoroughly unsatisfying.
like the witness saw the dog on on the killer's t-shirt or whatever, and it said Hound at the top.
Yeah, yeah, I do remember that now. It has this like quintessential moment, which I was kind of looking for from this, where Sherlock is unable to trust his own eyes. He sees the wolves,
Mm,
and so he's like in a pub and he's kind of tearing up with the inability to trust one of his senses. And that's kind of what I wanted with the interaction with ghosts. This episode didn't quite have enough time. As soon as we were kind of about to believe in ghosts, there was a dead body with like an M for Moriarty, and suddenly Sherlock was like derailed and realizing he was in a mind palace. And so
yeah.
as soon as it got close, it ran far away from where I wanted it to go,
Yeah. Moriarty is haunting his mind palace, much
which
like
is cool.
Marion Cotillard
Right.
in Inception.
Ooh, ghost. Wow, we can do it now. I if this mystery had no ghost related to it, I would have stretched the logic and reason to say that Moriarty was a ghost anyway. Like I would have already made that leap for this thing. So it was
Yeah.
cool. It was cool to see them do all the legwork or the ghostly float work for me. I did read some Sherlock Holmes. I usually read a book for this podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
And I picked up the complete works of Sherlock Holmes in addition to the memoirs of Sherlock Holmes because that was the one that has the story that mentions this one. But I read the very first Sherlock story, which is also the same plot as the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's an interesting one. Like or a third of it, the the murder has a lot to do with Mormonism and has this extensive backstory,
Yeah,
and
it's all
so
about
it
Mormonism.
cuts and there's no Sherlock for a huge portion of that book that portion, and it's interesting, fascinating. I pushed through and read all of it. Um, this was not the ghost book that the people we haunt leave out. A ghost book is one that you leave propped open, and every time you walk through the room, you flip a page so the ghosts that haunt you can read it. But
For
I really
sure.
can't keep up with that. I usually read,
Yeah.
they flip it before I'm ready, or they've flipped 3 pages before, and I'm like, oh, I can't read this. I'm able to physically use my ghost powers. This is,
Yeah.
little known fact. I can pick up a book and read it on my own. I can Google a book and
But
read it.
it takes more energy than it would a person. That's
It
the thing. It
absolutely
just
does take a
saves.
lot of my energy, and it's nice.
Yeah, it's a nice thing to
It's a
do. So,
sentiment. I appreciate it, even though I really never read the books they leave out
I read them
for me.
sometimes.
I mean, I take a bite at it, but I've never finished one or come
It's
close.
okay. You know, who says you need to finish books?
That's a good point.
Got all the time in the world to finish that book.
Sherlock as a book series, it he is pretty pompous and he really does know things. I love not knowing things.
Yeah.
Vernon really loves not knowing.
The
And
one you
so,
read was a study in Scarlet?
yes, a study in Scarlet, whereas the first episode of Sherlock is called A Study in Pink.
Right.
And they kind of resolve the same way. The crux of it is mostly the same.
Yeah. This episode kind of doesn't resolve anything, honestly.
Nope. Nope, we're past the point where the show could possibly
It's trying to
resolve.
resolve everything all at the same time. It's trying to Moriarty it all. Just resolve it all with Moriarty.
Gosh.
Like I thought, before I even knew what was going on. Moriarty did it, of course.
Yeah. I mean, my endorphins are high just thinking about the endorphins you must be having.
Be coming out correct.
My ghost dorphins. I have the word daddy here circled. I think somebody mentions daddy at one point in referring to, the relationship between Moriarty and Sherlock, or Sherlock and Watson. There's definitely a love triangle. Um, a
Yeah.
little more of those vibes, but one scene where Sherlock and Watson have like some alone time. They're waiting. They're in kind of a stakeout scenario, and Watson is being the straight best friend, and he's like, "Aren't you gonna find somebody? I'm married. I'm not your partner. Why don't you find somebody?" What does Sherlock say? I really didn't. I didn't get. He didn't give a satisfying.
Well,
I don't remember.
you know, in Sherlock's mind palace, He regards
Yeah.
Watson like an equal, like he deserves, but only in his mind
It's a
palace.
mind palace thing. I forgot. I
Yeah.
forgot. And in the real world, Watson is very nice and generous. He's like, "What's the other me like?" Or maybe that's the imaginary Watson that asks that.
It is. It's the
Ew, I
imaginary
don't remember.
Watson. And yeah, what's
Well,
the other me like? And this is how he affirms it. He's like Sherlock goes, God, I don't remember what he says, but he says something nice, like actually nice.
yeah, I ship them. Whatever he says, I remember being like, I still ship it.
Yeah, it could have worked, but they didn't want to do
It
it.
could have worked.
But
Gosh.
even Moriarty, he sits down after getting beat by the both of them, and he's like, "Oh, why don't you just elope already?" And then Watson kicks him off, and then Sherlock
Yes.
jumps off the Reichenbach Falls.
Right. That was the first time I connected that the end of season 2 was their version of the Reichenbach Falls.
That was the first time you realized that?
I didn't really connect that that was the building was the waterfall. Like, I guess I, no, never connected it. Not that smart. I think I'm smart. I guess I'm the
Well,
Watson
you
after
just
all.
didn't think about it.
Elementary, my dear
You
Jonathan.
probably know more about Sherlock Holmes since that time when you watched that. This was
It's hard to
ages ago.
say. I say the Reichenbach Falls as if I think I'm saying it right. How would I know?
I
That's the
don't know.
one where they fall off the waterfall.
Reichenbeck?
Exactly. Who
I think it's
knows? You
Reichenbach.
know,
Bach? Like the pianist?
it's pronounced penis.
I don't know.
All right, Jonathan. We're done with Sherlock. Sherlock is gone.
Yeah,
It's over.
yeah. Well, I have been reading the Ghost book,
What did they leave
Vernon.
out?
We kind of blew through a lot of our normal segments. Since this is a two ghosts roasts, it's been pretty informal. We don't really have to go through all those that much. Some of them don't really.
You like music?
uh yeah, I like
Does the
music.
music in this thing, does this theme song fill you with that wonder that it once did of mystery and
No,
no
it's okay. Music's okay.
extraneous crew facts? Do you Stephen Moffat, big Stephen Moffat fan?
No. He used to write for Doctor Who and then he took it over and he ruined it.
Oh, ruined it by making it all straight.
Yeah, by making it all straight. That's right. Happy Pride Month, everybody. Um, the Ghost book. I've been reading The Outsiders.
Oh my gosh. I know that doesn't have any ghosts in it.
Yeah, no ghosts, just greasers.
Do you identify, do you like the greaser aesthetic?
Oh, sure, but not like for me. I mean, I'm stuck in the clothes I was wearing when I died, unfortunately,
Yeah.
but
Don't remind
you
me.
know, no, I wouldn't look good in the style. I've got this mousy brown hair for one thing,
Mm.
uh,
Yeah.
ghostly hair, and it doesn't gel well being so ghostly.
I dyed my hair dark right before I died. It doesn't mean I would be a better greaser, but it just,
That's a
just a
factor.
fact. Just, make sure you always walk out of the house ready to be a ghost.
If you have your roots poking through on your dye job,
Yeah, get used to it.
yeah, that's gonna be like that.
Yeah. Well, The Outsiders. The Outsiders is sad.
Classic. S.E.
We
Hinton.
made an Outsiders reference when we were doing our Nightmare on Elm Street
Oh
episode
yeah.
because one of the characters is very greaser coated, Rod. And I said, stay golden,
Rod.
Rod.
Hmm.
And you were like, wow, Vernon, you're the smartest person that's ever lived and then died and continued to
It
talk.
was a good pun.
And I was like, thanks, Jonathan.
But um
And then later when I was editing, I was like, oh yeah,
yeah.
goldenrod, the flower. I didn't even get my own joke, Jonathan. I'm not that smart.
uh we'd all like to be as smart as Sherlock Holmes. sometimes.
No, he would be like, what a miserable life.
It does seem like
He
it.
wishes ignorance is bliss, says Sherlock, I
Yeah,
think.
somebody says to him, "You must know everything about everything." And he's like, "Oh, of course not. That would be an extraordinary waste of brain space."
That's right. He says he
Yeah,
specializes.
of course. As anyone does.
It's easy to write that. There was a lot of, like referencing how Sherlock is portrayed in John Watson's stories versus
He is
how
in.
he is in the real world, and that was interesting. That was all,
Yeah,
that
kind
was
of
all.
interesting, yeah. It had potential. It just all kind of fell apart.
That's Sherlock for you.
That's the show
Ab-
Sherlock.
Abominably bad.
Mm-hmm.
I guess abominable already means good. Abominably. Wait. Let me start again. Abominably good at being bad.
Damn. Roasted.
Roasted. Oh my gosh.
Um,
Well,
yeah. How's your afterlife?
I mean, you're a great friend.
Oh, you too.
Oh, thank you. I was gonna undercut that
Oh.
by talking about anything else. It was about how I want more people to know about us and to talk to us because I'm lonely. Despite having such a good friend in you, I would really like to hear from more ghosts, more mediums, and more people who want to talk to us.
Yeah,
So
if you've made it this far, you're a true believer, and therefore you should, let your friends know today. Ghosts are real, baby.
yeah, absolutely.
Got two of them.
We are real.
Yeah, we keep it real.
I've kept it pretty real.
For sure.
I would appreciate it if everyone who's listening to these words could like the video and then go, and if you're not going to watch another one of our videos, go click on a video that has 1 million views and then like it. Actually, do that, and then come back and watch another one of ours. It would really help. It would get us into the right pools. Right now, we're in just a tepid, stagnant, ectoplasmic pool
Mm-hmm.
that there's no fish swimming around in this
And we
pond.
also are on Spotify, so if you'd rather listen on Spotify, we need more Spotify listeners too.
Absolutely. I think if we got one review on Spotify, we would be electroshocked into coherence. I think that would really do us some good. So, yes, if you could go on Spotify,
Yeah.
give us a 5-star review, give us a 1-star review. I
No,
think it
no,
would help.
no,
Well,
no,
better than nothing.
no,
We currently have a
no,
bunch of 0-star reviews.
no.
Okay, just a 5-star review and we'll call it even.
Yeah, if you leave a 1-star review, I will haunt you.
Oh, that is within our capabilities. That's true. I should threaten that more often. My schedule. I I can't haunt anybody right now.
I'll get my scumbag ghost friend Greg to haunt you.
Oh my, what a callback.
Yeah, ancient callback.
I remember that. I remember that. Fuck Greg.
Yeah,
What a callback.
I remember.
Oh my gosh. Well, this has been, I had a great time. I insisted on this. I'm really into mysteries and I thought this would be fun.
Yeah,
Was it fun?
this was fun, and I think that this kind of loosey-goosey vibe is what we can expect from a Two Ghosts roast.
Soups Lucy. Is there anything that you would like to mention before we float on out of here?
Well,
You can take a moment to think about it.
only that this marks the end of our communal with the living. Say goodbye to the dead. Vernon, want to take us on out of here?
Yes. Peace and love, everyone.
Peace and love. And happy Pride.
Happy Pride.